From the land of conjurers, flying through the internet to your device like a UAP, hauntingly unexplained and downright weird. This is the Witching Hours, and we are ready to take off in the flash of an eye. Good evening to one and all, wherever or whenever you are listening to this program. I am Giant of the Frost, and joining me as always, easily said, I guess, is the medium Jenny Lee. How are you doing, Jenny?
I'm doing all right. I just realized that I'm wearing the same shirt I was wearing last week. That's like not a good thing. But I have a sweater over it this time. It's a little different.
The question would be, are you still wearing the same shirt from last week? That's, I think,
no,
when
it's
it
been
washed.
I washed it. I washed it, everybody. Okay? Okay.
Yeah, who knows? It's broadcasting magic there, so it'll be okay. So we have a great show for you tonight.
Yeah.
We're going to introduce our guest here in a little bit. Just to catch everybody on what's going on, next week is going to be the 2-year anniversary for the podcast, and it's also the Halloween special. So we're going to have a lot of fun doing that. We got some spooky stories coming your way, along with some special surprises and giveaways and so on and so forth. So make sure you carve out those 2 hours next Thursday night. We're going to have fun and do a little early Halloween celebrating.
Yes.
All right. So are you ready to get into the news, Jenny?
What kind of weird stuff do you have for us this week?
All right. Well, I put this one in here especially for you. So,
Yikes.
Article 1. First news story of the night is simulations of backwards time travel can improve scientific experiments. So, physicists have shown that simulating models of hypothetical time travel can solve experimental problems that appear impossible to solve using standard physics. Researchers at the University of Cambridge have shown that by manipulating entanglement, a feature of quantum theory that causes particles to be intrinsically linked, they can simulate what could happen if one could travel backwards in time. So that gamblers, investors, and quantum experimentalists could, in some cases, retroactively change their past actions and improve their outcomes in the present. Where particles can travel backwards in time is a controversial topic among physicists, even though scientists have previously simulated models of how such space-time loops could behave if they did exist. By connecting their new theory to quantum metrology, which uses quantum theory to make highly sensitive measurements, the Cambridge team has shown that entanglement can solve problems that otherwise seem impossible. The study appears in the journal Physical Review Letters. Well, at least let me name the journal. All right. Physical Review Letters.
Hold on.
All right.
I'm so confused. All right. So are they they're just simulating if they could go back in time and change things?
Well, they're able to simulate through quantum mechanics that they could go back in time to change things, which is...
So it's not a simulation if you actually can go back in time and change things.
Yeah, but they're running quantum calculations.
Okay, so
because as far as we know,
calculating. They're calculating
no one has
things.
Ever traveled in time, as far as we know.
Okay.
So it's all simulations. Now, what this I could keep going on, but the article does get pretty in depth. Well, I will say this. So
a test simulation.
Yeah. So they're running simulations to see if it could possibly happen, and it gets a little deeper. I can post an article if people want to get further into it, but this is important, namely because quantum mechanics has allowed for the ability to travel forward in time. Like everyone has theorized about that. Stephen Hawking and you listen and we know because of black holes and the speed of light and all that stuff, it is possible to travel forward in time. But they've always said that it's not possible to travel back in time. But they're trying to link that to some quantum mechanics. And since you love time travel so much, and since you want to go live when the way back days is, now we can possibly have that happen.
I don't know. phone living the way back is.
Article 2, massive ocean discovered beneath the Earth's crust containing more water than on the surface. So a huge supply of water 400 miles underground is stored in a rock known as ringwoodite. The ringwoodite is like a sponge soaking up water. There is something very special about the crystal structure of the ringwoodite that allows it to attract hydrogen and trap water, said geophysicist Steve Jacobson in the article. This mineral can contain a lot of water under conditions of the deep mantle, who was part of the team behind this discovery. He added, I think we're finally seeing evidence for a whole Earth water cycle, which may help explain the vast amount of liquid water on the surface of our habitable planet. Scientists have been looking for this missing deep water for decades. Scientists made the findings at the time after studying earthquakes and discovering that seismometers were picking up shock waves under the surface of the Earth. From that, they were able to establish that the water was being held in the rock known as ringwoodite, and if the rock contained just 1% water, it would mean that there is 3 times more water under the surface of the Earth than there is in all of the oceans on the surface.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So basically, it's like a type of rock that holds water.
Yeah, it's a kind of rock that has, like in the article, it says it's able to basically soak water up like a sponge. So there's actually more water in this mantle rock than there is in all the oceans.
Wow. That seems unbelievable.
What would happen if all of a sudden, for some reason, that water was released?
Let's not think about that.
I don't know. Let's talk about all those floods that happened way back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Article number 3, the U.S. Navy funds the thin film LK99 room temperature semiconductor research. So this is a story.
Lord. Can they just make up their mind about this for crying out loud? Is it a superconductor or is it not a superconductor? Can you get it together, people?
It's hopefully a room temperature superconductor, because they already have superconductors. But this article is the one that refuses to go away. It was last summer that the South Korean scientists published their findings of a possible room temperature superconductor. So what we have here is we have, after it's kind of been poo-pooed, I guess, people have pulled into question. They haven't been able to replicate the findings. But here we have the U.S. Office of Naval Research has provided $100,000 in funding for LK99 room temperature ambient pressure superconducting research at Chapman University. Development of discrete elements for superconducting electronics for room temperature operation enabled by LK99 thin films. They say we plan to explore superconductivity in the material LK99 in the thin film form using our laboratory deposition and diagnostic facilities. So, in other words, the U.S. Navy, or at least the U.S. government here, seems to think that there's something worth finding out. And the problem is they haven't been able to reproduce this in other laboratories, but the quantum computers and supercomputers are saying that there is a room temperature superconductor possible with it. They just haven't been able to recreate it yet. So that refuses to go out of the news.
I know. It just keeps coming back. It is one. It's not one. It is one. It's not one. Eggs are good for you. Eggs are bad for you.
Exactly.
Make up your mind.
And the final story for tonight, or you got something else?
I thought I was going to say something, but no, go ahead.
So for all of you out there in Chatland and all of you listening later on the podcast, I'm going to give you instructions on how to enter the $1 million competition recording extraterrestrial activity on your Ring doorbell device. So Ring, the company Ring, has sponsored a program. Ring is showing that their surveillance cameras record more than just suspicious human and animal activity. They're also ready to capture any extraterrestrial beings. The home security company has announced their $1 million search for extraterrestrials. Because
the extraterrestrial beings have also been employed by Amazon, and they're coming to deliver your packages.
Well, you watch those videos all the time. What is the show that you watch that always has like footage of aliens? There you go. There you go. So there you go. Competition where they encourage users to film an extraterrestrial sighting with their Ring device. The company announced Wednesday the contest open only to Americans at least 18 years old, is to capture unaltered scientific evidence of a real extraterrestrial life form with a ring device. One winner will receive the grand prize of $1 million, awarded with $50,000 payments a year for 2 decades.
Wow. There's going to be some major fake stuff coming out through that, you know? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Customers all over the world capture life's unexpected and delightful moments through their Ring video doorbells and cameras. Now you could be rewarded for catching an otherworldly sighting, Ring said in a press release. Whether it's a video of an extraterrestrial walking or flying up your driveway and asking for directions, or an unidentifiable life form exhibiting unusual and extraordinary behavior in your backyard, submit your best footage. But you have to be American, or living in America, I guess, and you have to be 18 years or older. So go ahead and get started, guys.
Yeah.
Let's
send out your telepathic thoughts. Aliens, will you come ring-a-ding-ding the doorbell?
I think you're right on with that, though. I think there's going to be so much fake footage that they're just not going to be able to.
How are they going to decide what's real? Yeah.
And then what happens if a for real extraterrestrial craft were to come down and land in somebody's front yard and get caught on their Ring doorbell, and they turn it in and they go, "That's a fake."
Exactly.
Right. So I don't know how you're actually gonna collect on that one. But
sounds fun though.
Yeah.
I'll watch them all, whether they're fake or not.
Yeah. There'll be lots of them, I'm sure. So
yes. I want to see one in an Amazon truck. Somebody who fakes stuff, get on it.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're ready for the show tonight.
Yay!
So, Forsaken Souls new series, Speaking for the Silent, is a para-drama docuseries where real crimes and unsolved cases meet with paranormal investigation. Team member Jaclyn LáRen relies on her law enforcement and investigative experience to explore the facts behind each case. Along with her partner, U.S. Army veteran John Vega, begins each case with research, interviewing local law enforcement and area historians, even tracking down previous witnesses to the crime in question. The team is later joined by psychic medium Irene, who we are bringing back to the show, and the paranormal investigation begins by attempting to establish contact with the victim to receive direct answers that will help uncover the truth behind their crime. The parallels between their investigation and the paranormal are powerfully revealed in each shocking conclusion. Using their incredible skill set and innovative paranormal techniques, Forsaken Souls embarks on a mission to solve America's most chilling cold cases. Join Forsaken Souls on this gripping journey as they combine intuition, skill, and a touch of mysticism to bring justice to those who have been forgotten. Following along on their extraordinary journey as they unravel the secrets that have eluded others for far too long, please welcome to the show returning guests Irene and Jaclyn and John. Welcome to the Witching Hours.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Hello.
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 Yay.
So
every week I'm like, Irene's coming back. Irene's coming back. There she is.
I'm here.
Yay.
So I guess we have a lot to discuss. There's a lot going on with you all. So there's a lot to discuss that's going to be that you've been working on and that is going to be coming up. So I guess the easiest way to start here is from the beginning. How did this show and program and all that come to be? How did it start?
Oh boy. So I when I retired from law enforcement and investigations, I always had that as a very deep passion. But I have been investigating paranormal on the side long before you could say you were a paranormal investigator. So over 23 years. And several years ago, I had the idea, well, what if I can combine the two of them? So I started doing it on my own and realized, okay, maybe I need some help doing this. It's not that easy. And John was actually a business partner at work. We worked at an executive protection firm together. He was kind of my right-hand man there. And believe it or not, he didn't believe in paranormal when I brought this to his attention. He thought I was crazy. Until I took him on one investigation that he never forgot, and he quickly became a believer. And at that point, him and I did it for quite a long line. So since 21, December 21 by ourselves. And then in February of 23, I officially founded the team and started, taking on more cases across the country. And at that point, I had connected with the CEO of Spirit Realm Network, and he said, this would be a great show. And I was like, I don't know about that. And at first I said, in my head, I was like nervous about it. But then at the end of the day, I said, if we can get our name out there to where we can reach more families and people nationwide and expand the help that we're providing, it's worth it for me. And I was very blessed to find Irene, because I went through a very long period of thinking that I was never going to find the right person to join the team as a psychic medium. And I found her and I said, this is it. We have the right team together. So we just pushed forward with it, and it's been an absolute blessing ever since. So I'm very excited about it.
Wow. That's pretty
Excellent.
Amazing. So when you first thought of putting them together, what exactly were you trying to accomplish?
Well, one of the biggest things that I think is not known enough is that there's a lot of law enforcement and private investigation career professionals that actually are involved in paranormal. And for a long, long time, and like I said, I've been doing it so long, back when if you said you're a paranormal investigator, you get locked up in an institution. So when you're a police officer or you are a private investigator or a corrections officer, you're not going to walk around and say that, because most people are going to think you're insane. But believe it or not, I started coming across a lot more people in the law enforcement and executive protection community that were actually involved in paranormal investigations. And I found that a lot of the way we looked at things was very much, we're going to prove this isn't real until we can't prove that it's not real anymore. And it really was like one of those things where you're like, okay, we can do a little bit more with this. So I said, those are the two, between the paranormal and, law enforcement or executive protection, were always massive passions of mine. I said, well, what if we can find a way to help people by bringing both together? Not everybody's going to believe us. And believe me, I've had so many people slam a door in my face. But even if I can help one person, one family find that closure, it's worth it.
That's amazing and wonderful.
I think that's a big thing too. Something that I always look for whenever there's any kind of paranormal investigation, whether it's the supernatural or search for the extraterrestrial, is that there are so many cases and so many times where you have either the police or military, people who are in those jobs who are trained to kind of keep their eyes open are oftentimes the ones who are seeing these things. So, it's very easy to be like, oh, it's the guy living back in the woods who's had too much to drink tonight is when he sees everything. Where oftentimes I think, you're just having people who are trained to have an eye on their surroundings that are actually seeing these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They come across it a lot in the field. I've had so many police officers tell me of incidents where they've had someone passing away in their arms, and they've seen things that they absolutely just can't explain, or they're in the middle of a murder investigation, and something leads them down a direction where they're able to uncover something where they're just like, this can't be real. And so whether you admit it or not, there's far too many of people like me out there that are in that community that say, what can we do to expand on this? One of our consultants for the show, he's a retired FBI agent. The guy is brilliant. He's brilliant. And he says to me, you just walk up to those police officers or those departments that don't believe you, because you don't open up with, hey, me and my psychic figured this out. Put it in front of them like, what do you have to lose? This is a cold case. What do you have to lose?
Exactly. Yeah.
You've got nothing to lose to test this DNA.
Yeah, for sure. And if and for the skeptics out there, which I'm glad there are skeptics, because you need that to be able to you need to be able to find the truth in the middle there. It's good to have people press, but for the skeptics out there, you also have to resolve the fact that the U.S. government and state and local police departments are also using paranormal investigators and mediums quite often. So if they believe in it and they're using those resources, then I think it's something you have to pay attention to for sure. All right, Jenny, I'll turn it over to you. Do you got some questions you want to ask? I
wanted to know John's first experience that made him a believer.
Oh, there we go.
Take it away, John Tuberg. That's all you.
Oh, that was a fantastic time. We were at Crescent Sanitarium, and it was literally, I didn't know what was going on. So all I know is we pulled up, and the doors were still closed, and then it just got so packed. And then we went in, and we got these tablets. And so I was like, okay, like she's like, yeah, we use these tablets, and this is kind of like the spirit box. And there was a program on there, and we started using it. After they did the hour-long tour, I was kind of like a little like about it, because it was just I was kind of like, let's see what's going on here. When we got to the church in Crescent, yeah, that was it right there for me. That whole, I think we were there for about 4 hours inside that church. It was, for about 4 hours. Where do I even start? We were sitting there. I mean, it was me and Jaclyn at first, okay? And we were like, yeah, let's do this. And she was scared, and I was scared too, I'm not gonna lie. So on the box, they were like, get out, like they were just really loud, and like I was like, oh, like again, me being, this is my first time, I'm like, oh shit, like excuse my language, like I'm scared, like so I went ahead, and these two females came in. It was a group of two, and they came in, and they're like, hey, are you guys gonna stay in here? I was like, yeah, come on and join. Like I was really ecstatic at that point, because then that's when I was really feeling confident. We started talking to this little boy. I guess it was like one of the nurses that used to be a nurse over there, and this little boy that was there as well. And okay, like this like truly tripped me out. This is like one of the things was that the little boy played the piano. Like there's a piano inside the church.
Yeah.
And we flipped open the piano thing, and nobody was near it. We were sitting on the benches there, and it's a good like 20 feet from the benches, and the piano, literally, the keys were being played. Probably like one or two keys. Nothing like, it wasn't Beethoven or nothing like, but the kid touched the keys, and he's saying on the box like, hey, I touched it, and I was like, oh no, like I was really like, and the nurse that was there was really funny, man. She was like, she was toying with me a lot, and she had a grand slam time doing it. She actually appeared. I saw her like in real time. So if anybody's been to Crescent, when you sit in the church, there's two archways. If you're facing the altar, there's two archways on each side, and that's how you get inside of the church, in and out from the outside. And on the right side is more like, if you walked in, it's a long hallway, and then that's one tunnel down there, and then one tunnel right there next to you when you walk in. She was on the top of the archway. Sorry if my camera's blurring. She was on the archway, like on the very top corner of the archway, and she was peeking her head down, like as if she was kind of upside down. And I saw like this shadow figure, and so like I'm like, okay, that's my eyes playing with me. Like I'm not gonna, I'm like, all right, it's whatever. Like I'm, it's just me. You're in the dark, so it's fine. But then like the darkness was like, it looked like oh my goodness, what is that?
Aurora Borealis.
Yeah, it was like blue, green, and what is it called? It's like Alaskan something. It's the skies in Alaska.
Aurora Borealis.
No, man.
The Northern Lights, yeah.
Northern Lights. There you go. That's what it looked like.
Thing.
It's the same thing.
Like Northern Lights. My bad. I'm sorry.
There he goes again.
So I was like tripping, and then the figure came down from the corner, and she got. She came down like upside down. It was trippy, man. Like, as soon as she came down, Jaclyn's sitting like on the far end of the bench. I'm sitting in the middle looking at the entrance. So like I'm sitting here and I'm like Jackie, like, and she's like, I don't want to look. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'll just suffer alone. So I was, so this thing came down from the corner of the tunnel and then it got on fours.
Oh
And
my God.
and that's the worst ones I hate is the crawling or the disfigurement is like I'm not a big fan of that at all.
Yeah.
And I've learned that very quickly. Yeah, she got on fours, and when she got on fours, she ran towards the other side of the tunnel, not into the church, but on the opposite side, which was there's basement stairs on the opposite side. It goes down into a tunnel which leads into another part of the building on the campus. And yeah, and I told Jackie, I'm flipping out. I'm telling the people there, I'm telling the two girls, I'm like, listen, there was something there. Like, I swear to God, there was something there. It came down and on fours, and they're like, what? And then you hear the nurse laughing, and she's like, yeah, that was me. I'm just toying with him. And yeah. It was literally a mind-blowing thing. We also heard them in real time as well. Like, I heard her in real time, and that was it right there. That was the complete switch.
So you heard a disembodied voice then?
Yeah. So I asked them. I'm sorry. I asked them, "How does it hurt to die?" And she said, "Only for a moment." And that took me. But when she said that, it was in real time. Like, I'm facing the bench, talking to the portal. Does it hurt to die? Only for a moment. And like to my right, she says, "Only for a moment." And I was like, "Whoa!" Like.
You could hear with your ears.
That was it. Yeah, that was it, man. Like, I just became a believer.
Wow.
Well, that's all it takes to become a believer.
Yeah. Right?
Creepy.
It just takes that one experience, that first experience. And, if you don't have one, it's hard, but once you have it, it's after that, no one can tell you anything differently.
It's almost like this. It's almost like the spirit world was like, Jaclyn's trying to do something real cool here. We need this guy to actually believe. So let's just put on a huge show for him right now.
Right. I was very skeptic. I was like, nah. Like, nobody believes that. I'm like, it's all fake.
Wow.
The whole ride there, he's like, this is crap, right? It's not real. I'm like, I grew up in a haunted house. I know it's real. He's like, it's crap and you're crazy.
And then after you had to change your drawers after the lady crawled across the floor, then you believed, right?
That was it, man. That was it. And then not to mention when we were the last ones out that night, like we rode it out till 6 a.m. And as soon as we're leaving, you walk through these trailers, I guess, like they use for classrooms. And man, when we were walking out, the lady's like, "Hey, you guys gotta go. It's time to leave." Okay, we were walking out, and you hear banging inside the trailers. Nobody else is on the campus, and you hear like banging on the trailer. I said, "Oh, back here." I said, we definitely got to come back. I was so excited.
We have a question from a viewer. They wanted to know, do you remember any of the other questions that you asked the lady?
I mean, I asked if she can touch my hand. There was multiple of them. There was about 4 of them. There was 2 males, 2 males, 1 boy, and the female. And the 3 males were up on top by where the organs are usually, like on the very high top of in the back of the church, and they were throwing things from up there.
Wow.
So, yeah, they threw like a piece of concrete. It's not like heavy concrete, but it was like a piece of the wall,
like the plaster.
Yeah, like the plaster.
Yeah.
So, and they were just. Man, they were having a grand time, just like talking, like I'm talking crap to me and whatnot, and just trying to like mess with me in general. The church got really cold, like to the point where you can truly see your breath, and it was like springtime, like and it was really cold. So, yeah, that was probably about what happened most of the time. It was just really jump scares mainly.
We had a water bottle thrown from behind the piano as well. It appeared out of nowhere, like. There was no water bottle. We all like did a full sweep of the church before we even started. There was never a water bottle like behind the piano. There's nowhere for anybody to hide behind the altar. It's just a wall. And miraculously, this massive water bottle just came flying out over the piano and landed in front of the pews. And we were like, what the hell is happening? Like, there's haunted locations and there's this. What is this? Because this is beyond that. It was just a wild night.
Wow. All right.
Wild.
So I want to bring Irene in. So the last time we talked to you, we were talking about some paranormal investigations that you had been doing at some inns. You were doing some fantastic stuff with some paracons, which we didn't have you back on when I was getting ready to come back around again. So we'll have to set that as a goal moving forward next time, because we want to try to start traveling a little bit to go check out some of what's been going on. So Irene, how did you get connected and get into this project?
It was actually by chance. Jaclyn posted something on Facebook, and you know Danica from the previous episode. She contacted Jaclyn through Facebook and said, "Hey, I know a medium." And then we had a phone call, and that was pretty much, that was the when she started talking, just like she says, she knew when we talked that this was the relationship that was going to work. The same thing happened. It was just automatic. We knew that, like, we needed to do this type of work together. It's important. I'd been talking for a while about wanting to do this type of work, and it ends up by chance. I end up on a phone call, and now we're doing it, and it's exciting. So yeah, it's not very glamorous. It's not, a woman falling from the sky, like crawling at me and saying, "Join Jaclyn." It was just a phone call.
Well,
it sounds magical regardless.
Yeah.
Like, you had an instant connection. Like, I'm supposed to be here. She's supposed to be here. This is it.
Yeah,
I agree.
Like a kind of serendipitous almost in a way. Like, just that's the way those things tend to work out, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask you, Jaclyn.
Spirit brings you together, as you know.
Yeah. Was there any hesitation to go? Because I know, like, I've talked to lots of different paranormal investigators, and some are really eager to have mediums and stuff like that participate in investigations, and some want to focus on just more of like the scientific side of it. Was there any hesitation for you, or what was your thought process in having a medium as part of your investigations?
So I did it for a very long time without a medium, and although I had great results, I personally wanted more. I wanted to take it to the next level, almost that beyond a shadow of a doubt, because in my mind I said, if we can uncover evidence, if we can uncover something the police don't know, if we can uncover a clue that nobody's ever heard before, and believe me, we have at this point, then I have to do this. Irene leaves out how many people I interviewed before her and how many insane interviews I had. Boy, there's a lot of people out there that are mediums and psychic and everything else in between when you have a post on Facebook.
Can imagine, yes.
Oh, yeah. I've had some interesting calls, including, one of the people that I didn't choose then came back and said they were cursing me to hell. So
that's fun.
But
that's a bad sign.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing you didn't pick that person.
Yeah.
One of the things I loved about her was she has a science background. So she's psychic medium, but also has that ability to have that analytical side. To be honest, she questions more of herself than anybody else does. And I'm like, no, this is it. Like, you hit the nail on the head. And she's like, but I want to go farther. I'm like, we're there. She is absolutely so pure and adamant about making sure that nothing gets contaminated. We go through so many different steps to make sure she knows nothing before we go on an investigation, from not telling her anything to blindfolding her driving to location. She doesn't know anything coming in. We keep her completely in the dark. So when we get on a location and she starts hitting the crime, just boom, 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 things that even like nobody else knows, it every time I'm just like stunned. But I love the fact that she's so analytical about everything she gets. She always pushes herself farther. In that first conversation we had, she said, I want to make sure that I give you the best answers. Like I need to know for myself that I'm given the right answers. And I loved that about her, because most people that I talked to really were all about, you know, I'm the best at what I do type of deal. And she was like, I want to challenge myself. And so that meant something to me. On top of her having that analytical scientific side where I knew that she was going to push it where we needed to go with it.
Because Irene's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so
it does.
Go ahead.
The analytical side, I can't help but use the like I can't just walk in and just, I can't, like, the one thing that I love about this group is that we want to give the best and most honest information, and that, like, the analytical part and verifying and double checking and investigating is really important. And that, you know, when she talks about that, that for me was definitely, you know, what hit the nail on the head for me. And, you know, I enjoy working with them and with that attitude. It's important.
Absolutely, because you're dealing with people's lives who were cut short, and families that are still grieving and wondering what happened. And yeah, like, you want to be on your A game and making sure it's all right, so that you're not muddling things up too, you know?
Right. As you know, Jenny, our goal is to heal, right? Heal and bring hope and healing.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. And even some of these cold cases, you know, we just recently did one of our most recent cases, you know, when I was speaking to the brother of the victim, this case was really difficult for me personally. I try to keep the emotion out of it so that I can do my best work. But it was very difficult because it did involve a child, and to hear his brother, obviously, you know, 30 years later as a grown man, relive that and tell me what his family went through, and just listening to that, you know, it never gets easier. No matter how many years pass, it doesn't get any better for them. And for most families, it destroys them. So anything that we can do to, even if it's find one more clue that leads them one more step towards one more suspect that could potentially bring a close to that case, every bit of it is worth it. But you're right, preserving that case at the same time is so critical. So critical.
Pretty amazing. So, without giving away any, you know, information you need to keep on the DL, since the episodes haven't come out yet, what go through like a little bit of the first time you guys worked together.
Do you want to start, Irene?
Mostly I was blindfolded initially. So, and they took me into a long, dark tunnel. I had to climb down tree roots, and they neglected to tell me that they had, the other time that they had been there were spiders crawling on the walls that were jumping out at them.
To be fair, Danica did not tell you. To be fair, she told us we could tell you.
I would have never entered the tunnel.
Yeah, she told us that.
See, it's a good thing you were blindfolded.
Yes, it was. But it was we actually sat and we all had dinner beforehand, and, you know, on before that first investigation, and enjoyed each other's company, you know, and then it was the blindfold in the dark tunnel.
With the spiders.
I need to be wined and dined first, basically, is what I'm saying. If you're gonna take me to a
make me blindfold climb down into a tree root hole with spiders, you better buy me dinner first.
Exactly.
That was another really important case. In fact, the very first case that we took her on is actually a case that John and I have been investigating. It was the very first case that John and I started to investigate once we pulled this together. We had been working on this case like 8 or 9 months before we brought Irene in. And him and I had been there, 5 or 6 times. And that was kind of one of the biggest things that kind of sealed the deal. And making sure we had the right psychic medium, because there was so many different aspects to this crime. We uncovered way more than just one victim. And when it was initially just one victim that brought us there, we uncovered more than one suspect when we thought it was just one suspect that was brought us there. And then we uncovered a whole underground protection ring. We'll just say that until the episode airs, to almost protect some of these individuals that behaved in, partaking in these criminal acts. And so this was a really tough case, and it has been something that we worked on for so long. And John and I had been down in that tunnel countless times, and like I said, it never gets easier. In this case particularly, didn't have many witnesses. It didn't have a big investigation. It was kind of botched from the beginning. So we kind of had to go back in time and redo it. So bringing Irene in was huge, because we were able to confirm some of the things that, we had suspected from the beginning.
Wow.
Wow.
So is that going to be the first episode?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys have a date set for when that will come out?
We are pushing for like the November, December area.
Okay, so soon.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Irene. I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. It was actually, for me, being blindfolded on my way there was actually pretty interesting, because the only time I've ever been blindfolded was if I'm doing some type of investigation or something like that. I tend to use a lot of sensory deprivation. So starting to go down there blindfolded, well, let me just say, they started coming from a few days before, even, that, like, in that week before we started the investigation. Things started coming. Women started coming forward, and spirit comes forward to kind of almost like, not, I hate to say threaten, but to let you know that you're not wanted, so basically threaten, but, to let you know that you're not wanted. But it's, it's traumatized or negative spirits doing their thing, and other spirits needing to find justice and healing. But to go down in that blindfold and you start to really feel your journey. You get an idea of what it was like to be, confined and feel the road and not know where you're going, and have to, you have no idea what's going to happen when you take off that blindfold, or what happened to them when they arrived in the location that they arrived in. So it sadly mirrored, in a way, their feelings and their emotions on the journey to where they were going. And it's jarring. It's eye-opening too. You get a different understanding in using that type of method. And, I hope that the more we do it, the more connection can be made in that way, and understanding that path.
Apple Burrito wanted to know, how did they let you know that you weren't wanted?
I don't know. Should I tell them, or should we hold?
Well, I'll say that we both had issues happen. No, Irene and I both had very identical issues happen months apart. Like my very first 2 visits there, what happened to her happened to me, and it also happened to another psychic medium we had brought there. And it was like, holy cow, this is happening again.
Wow.
When she tells you what happened with her, I was like, oh my God, what is happening now? Yeah, it's pretty wild.
There, I can tell you that it was, one showed up in my home, sitting on my couch in my living room.
Mm.
And another on the drive down, basically warning me.
Mhm.
So we'll leave it at that. That's how's
Yeah.
that? That's a little
all
bit,
you get to know right
of
now.
information.
To watch the episode.
Yeah.
Comes out next month or December.
To kind of bring that up a little bit, though, I know that's not completely uncommon for mediums to kind of start getting conversations going before they do readings. Like they have a reading later that day, they'll kind of have people start showing up. Has that been the case for you with this as well?
Yeah, I'm noticing that. Yeah, I'm noticing that a lot. I'm trying to at least let them know when something happens so that they have record of, what's coming before I even get there. So, before we go on a case, I'll say, well, I've seen this and I've seen this. And, then they're like, okay. And then we get to the location and then they validate. Validate what was happening. But yeah, it will come before. I'll see spirit. I'll get feelings. And I'll get, I've gotten sick feelings too. And, tightness in my throat or, different types, sometimes anger, sometimes emotions that, as that aren't our own. And we have to define what is ours, what isn't ours. And so, yeah, it happens. Like I have pretty good boundaries. So, it comes in for a moment and I can let it go, but sometimes I'll let it come in because I know that I'm going to go do something important and I'll let it come through so that I can get a little bit of information. Even though I know like for us, we're taught before going into a reading, at least I was taught not to stack, which is, not to start getting information before you get there because it can contaminate you. But in this situation, it's almost like the reading begins days before, and it's just collecting information until I get there. I have to figure out, that fine balance.
Yeah. I think what you're doing is totally different than doing like an evidential medium reading for a living person. So I can see like all the information that's coming to you as it's coming to you being important and like not ignoring it. Like it's coming to you for a reason because you've put out the intention that you're going to help with this thing. So then spirit world's like, oh yes, let's either help or not try or not help apparently.
Right. Or will you get on this already? Stop ignoring us.
Yeah, exactly.
Get to the work.
I don't care if it's 3:00 in the morning. I got something to tell you. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, there's a few times she's called me and been like, I got this spirit that came to, it's so hard for me to keep quiet when she starts telling me things that
she gets yelled at a lot.
I do, because she starts hitting on my crime before we get to location days in advance. And I'm just like, I want to tell her I'm investigating that right now. It's so hard to keep my mouth shut because it's so exciting for me in the middle of a criminal investigation. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm looking at that suspect right now. Wait, hold up. Wait. And then, she'll always feel like this thing. If I start saying something, and then it takes me a minute. I'm always afraid she's being possessed by spirit. And then it hits.
I think I've seen her do that before, actually. Yeah.
We had a meeting.
My head doesn't spin, though. Only once.
Yeah. We had a meeting with the network the other night, and the CEO, he's like, hey, so which episode you working on now? And I go to speak. And all of a sudden, I just see the computer spinning and her hands moving, and she's yelling. And I'm like, oh, no, Spirit's got Irene. And then she's like, stop talking about the case. I'm like, shit, I forgot about that. And, I forget because I'm so wrapped up in the case that it's like, but
it's really hard for me, too, because I'm curious by nature. I'm trained to be curious, and I want to know. And I love the history of that's what. Like love most about paranormal investigation and true crimes and things like that. I love knowing the details and the history. So it is so hard not to ask, not to know. But, we both know that it's really important what we're trying to do. So
sounds like
so we do our best.
This whole experience is a lesson in patience for both of you.
Oh, yeah. John is my keeper, let me tell you. There's days where I have to almost have him sit on me because I get so excited for stuff. But he's always like, Jackie, you know.
John, you have
So-
to be the regulator. You're like, nope.
He's kind of the everything.
Yes.
He's got a role in everything. From
Very strict communication level. Just they can't even really talk. I was just telling her that the other day. I'm like, it's you guys don't even like talk to each other on the outside because you'll just start getting wrapped up in what we're doing and whatnot, and then you'll just start.
Yeah, I can see that. That could be pretty difficult.
Yeah.
All right.
But it is once the case is done and we've investigated, then it's wonderful.
It's
and we're
on.
talking about it. Right?
That's my favorite part, when I get to sit down at dinner and tell her everything. That when we bring that case together, and I'm like, you got this, and she's just like, oh my god, she's shocked every time, and I'm like, I don't know why you're surprised. This isn't anything new.
Well, it's not me. That's because it's not us, right? It's
that's how we
up
are.
there.
Yeah.
It still shocks us too.
It's genuine. That's what makes it genuine. That's what makes me. Every case is that much more incredible because of it.
Yeah,
Insane.
I can imagine. Can imagine. All right, well, I'm going to do a quick reset right now. If you've jumped in since the beginning of the show, you're catching us coming in and wondering what's going on. We have guests on tonight that are talking about a new show, Forsaken Souls, Speaking for the Silent. And they are joining us tonight talking about the show that's coming out. And I wanted to thank real quick Four Gates Kai, Vegas, I Am Luke for the follows. And thank you, Michael Manis, for the sub. We reached our sub goal, so I appreciate all of you. And thank you for the follows and the subs and all of those wonderful things this evening. So real quick, so you said you're looking at the November, December timeframe. Where will people be able to go to be able to check it out? Because we want to be able to, and definitely let us know. Send us a link or something so we can get that out to chat and the listeners when it comes out. But will that be like online viewing to start off, or where will you go to find that?
Yep, it'll be at www.spiritrealm.net. So we are on the Spirit Realm Network. You'll be able to view them online. So internet TV. We'll have promotions running on all of our social media. And then hopefully taking it to the next level once a few episodes there, and maybe get on the big screen there.
And the link is in chat. It's pinned at the top. So go ahead and click on that and then bookmark it, and you'll have it ready to go when we put out, like when we let everybody know, and you can check on their site too to find out when that's coming out. For those listening on the podcast later, I'll make sure to have that information pinned below in the description. So check that out.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And the last thing I wanted to say is, if you're in chat and you have some questions for our guests this evening, make sure that you pop that in there, and we will relay those questions to the guests. And if you want to, you can use the channel points to highlight your message, and then that'll pretty much make it that we won't miss it. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so how many episodes have you guys worked on so far?
3. We've completed 3 filmings. We'll be doing a series of 8 and 2 specials.
Cool.
And we're doing, so far we have 2 seasons that we're working on.
And does that go back through all of the investigations that you've been working on all this time?
Yeah.
Awesome. I bet that's exciting for you to be able to like start to tie some more things together with these things you've been looking at for such a long time.
Yes. Yeah. It is. I feel bad for John sometimes because I drag him out at all hours of the day, all hours of the night. As we work during the day, and we get home and we're like, okay, grab something to eat real quick, let the dogs out, and like we're back on the road. And there was at one point, I think we just lived on the road, just going from case to case to case. And I think I drove maybe 1 hour of that time.
Yeah, I'm the designated driver there. So PA is such a big state that our first episode is must. So it's she said we've been there so many times, but just so many times driving 2 hours and you're not even a quarter out of the state with the 2 hours. PA is so damn big, like it's probably like a 6 hour stay here.
Yeah.
But man, anytime she's like, hey, listen, like I want to go, or anywhere, I'm just like, all right, let's go, and we'll just randomly drive. Or when we go anywhere, pretty much at this point, we run our portal, and we'll throw our flux on the dash, and we're doing like 65, 70 down the highway, talking to these spirits, and they're just shooting with us, they're just chilling with us during this car ride and whatnot. So yeah, it's a 24-hour thing for us. It's never. Yeah. Oh man. So before Irene confirmed this, and this is why we have.
I know
Irene.
they expect this not to happen. Let me just start that.
Right,
Go ahead.
Yeah. What we get on our portal is usually confirmed by Irene, which is why I love both pretty much, because Irene is like physically there to be like, yeah, this is what's going on. I'm like, I didn't even tell her nothing. The box and Irene are matching, so it's so I'm just like believing, and I feel like a 5-year-old, like a giddy 5-year-old when that happens. And so prior, every time we drove and we started taking our little flux triangle out, I throw it on the dash and we'd talk to it. And one time we were driving somewhere and I asked it, like, is there anybody behind us? And it said yes. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, are you sitting behind Jaclyn? And it said no. And I was like, okay, are you sitting behind me? And it was like, yes. And I was like, okay. I was like, just random things like that. Like I would just talk to it randomly. It wasn't like anything crazy. So then we're done filming at one of our sets there, and then we're getting ready to wrap up, and I'm getting ready to jump in the truck, and Irene's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, just a heads up, you got a guy that just sits back here behind you, John. He's sitting there." And I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, "Oh yeah, oh no, initially I was like, oh yeah, I know, I've talked to the guy. I knew he was there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just didn't know, like, for sure until she just confirmed it for me. And I'm like, oh, shit, there really is somebody that is there. Like, this isn't like, you know what I mean? This isn't the imagination anymore. So I'm like asking her a bunch of questions. I'm like, what's his name? What does he look like? This and that and the third. She said he's like a young dude. What was he, 30s, right, Irene? Like young 30s, young cat.
All I know is you really liked messing with him. That was his favorite thing to do. That's what I remember most.
I'm like, why? Like, why do they love like messing with me? I really just don't know. Like, you know what I mean? So she's like, oh yeah, he's a young guy, straight teeth smile. And I'm like, okay, so I got a pretty boy that sits behind me during my car rides. You know what I mean? So she's like, oh, he just likes to sit there. So he didn't give a name, but he goes by K. So now, like, moving forward, I think it's been like a week or so, 2 weeks, and we talked to this guy. Like, when we and Jackie are just driving now, we're just like, okay, are you in here? And then you'll see the flux go off, and just
Yes.
This guy just came out of left field. Nobody invited him. Nobody said, hey, come on down. She just randomly confirmed that there was a guy sitting there, and we're just like, do we know him? And no, we don't know this dude. So
it's very interesting that you guys got on this conversation, because we had a question from Apple Burrito that asked, do you have spirit allies or guardian ghosts that go around with you and assist on cases? And now apparently you have Kay. Who knows what he's doing, but you got him.
Kay, right. Yeah, so we got Kay, who's like our road warrior there. He rides in the car with us. And then we got Anna, who Anna, man, yeah, man. When me and her really started like 24/7 in this thing, and we were really going with investigating, we stumbled upon our local cemetery, and we ran into this lady named Anna Pfister. And man, she was probably the most cooperative, like I would even say loving spirit that we've encountered. This lady was, when we started, we had like the basic things. We had like the rods and the cat balls, right? So we weren't all into like what we have now and whatnot. So we had cat balls on top of her little headstone, man, and she was lighting it up on like command, which was the best part. It was on command. It wasn't like 2 minutes, 5 minutes. And she would talk to us through our portal too, and she was just like her voice sounded like the way the portal projected her voice was like a really sweet, caring lady. So everywhere we went, we noticed she was in the box. And so she does her famous one-liner when you know she's there, and she always does this. She'll go, "This is Anna," like just out of left field. She'll just go, "This is Anna," like she's just like, "Hey, I'm here." And we figured she was a guardian spirit for us in a way, because one time we were at Sachs Bridge and we were with a bunch of people, or with these random people doing a tour there, and we were doing our own thing, and she came on, and you can hear Anna explaining to the other spirits the tools we had set out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the best part was she was like, "Oh, you touch this lights."
Oh.
You say lights, touch this. Oh my God, excuse me.
Wow. That's crazy though.
Yeah, it's like she was literally giving them verbatim instructions on talk to the speaker, like talk to the black box, because that's what she would call it, and then like how to touch the REM pod or the cat ball and whatnot. And yeah, it was insane, man. And it was, she's just been following us for a while. And then we talked to her sisters as well. Like, so her sister's name is oh man, Emily, right? Or Emma. It's Emma. She'll go, and she's another one. She'll go in and say, "My name is Emma." And you're just, yeah, my name is Emma. And just a bunch of sweet ladies. I mean, they haven't caused us no issues, and they respect our boundaries when we tell them not to come and whatnot. And we, when we exit every cemetery, we always tell them, they're not allowed to follow us, and we do our thing before we leave. They don't follow us, but they do talk to us, though.
That's wonderful.
Those guys, I love them. I love them, and they even told Jackie that they love her. I mean, we, no lie, we have more than we have more than 2 handful of spirits at that cemetery that love to talk to us. We've got George, we've got Nellie, we've got Emma, we've got Anna, we've got a bunch of people. We've got Cage, right? What's the little boy that we just Cage? Yeah, we got Cage. There's just a bunch of spirits there that the best part is when we're talking to them, and then they'll go, "There's someone around." And we're looking physically, and we're like, "We see nobody around." And then you'll see this lady walking into the cemetery with her dog.
They're coming.
Yeah, they're coming, and they'll just stay quiet. Like, they won't talk because they don't want to be heard. Like, it's insane the way they communicate. And that's what's really been kind of like stacking our belief in how we can communicate with them and what we can use and things like that. And yeah, man, it's just been a wild trip for the last like 2 years.
That's amazing. I love Anna already.
Yeah, she's amazing.
So that cemetery, this cemetery is a very high profile cemetery for the well-to-do back in Pennsylvania. So the Yingling family's buried there. The guy that started like the first coal factory is buried there. And they have these massive family plots. They're like the Yingling plot is in the center. There's like stone walls around it, and then like 30 headstones, and then the giant Yingling monument. And then the Pfisters is next to the Yingling. And then there's the guy that built like the first ironworks in PA is over here. So there are all these prominent families, and Anna is like the most protective spirit for us. And she would go on these trips with us, and she'd say, I finally said one day, I said, "Anna, I really love talking with you." And she goes, "I love talking to you." And I was just like, that's it. She was just so sweet. So we left the ball for her. We left the cat ball on her headstone. And ironically, we're there one morning, and the guy that runs the property itself, he sees us over there, and he says, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And I said, "Oh, well," I kind of explained it. Of course, we go through the awkward moment of explaining what we do to people. And he says, "Oh, you left that cat ball there. Well, let me go get it, because I took it in because I didn't want anything to happen." And he put it back for her. And, as soon as we pull in, you'll see sometimes it lights up. It's like she knows when we're there. She just knows. It's super wild. Like they enjoy talking with us. And we've had some like real conversations with them. Sentences. Pretty wild.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Irene gets to back it all up because she's the spirit box in physical form.
Greatest thing ever.
Yeah. Well, I was getting ready to ask, we've gone through a lot of the equipment and stuff that you guys use for your investigations. I know they all have like their own purpose and specific ways that you want to use them, but do Do either of you two have like your favorites, like your go-to that you just seem to get the best evidence with, or no?
Oh man, like we really started like falling hard with the flux. That's our recent grab, and that thing has changed a lot. We used to use the REM pod a lot, and we put the REM pod on our dash. So the best part is sometimes like during the winters, we'll investigate in our local cemeteries in our vehicle because it's really cold outside. It's like 30 degrees at 2 a.m. And so when we're sitting in the car, we'll set up the REM pod by the windshield, but we'll lower the antenna to where it barely touches the windshield. Now, if you physically put your hand over the windshield from the outside, you'll set off the REM pod. So you're like, oh shit, this is perfect. So the spirits would go bananas on the REM pod. So like they're outside the car, and they're touching the REM pod from outside, and we're asking them, and they're like, yeah, we're outside. And Jaclyn's one time heard them tapping on the window and whatnot.
Oh, wow.
And mind you, we're in a pitch black cemetery, okay? And then we keep the low beams on because we don't keep the lights on just to be discreet. So we'll keep the low beams on, and then it's really pitch black, and then she'll hear tapping, and then they're setting off the REM pod, and then talking on the spirit box, and then, so before that, it was the REM pod and then the flux. So, but me personally, what would you say? I would say probably, yeah, the portal and the flux for me, man. I love the portal. I mean, she's trying to get me into like EVPs and whatnot, and she's showing me some serious EVP evidence.
EVPs now are like that's like my thing right now. They've been going crazy. So
Yeah, that like, see, I can buy that. I'm like okay with the EVPs, but I'm not like a go-to guy. I'm usually like jump me to the use or the portal and the flux for sure.
I am a sucker for a good EVP. I've heard some
good ones.
Yeah, I've heard some good EVPs. I've been able to capture a couple decent EVPs, but yeah, that for me is like the one thing. It's like, man, how do you deny? I was there. I know no one was there, but here's voices. Where did that come from? That's always been a good one for me. So I'm taking it that we have some pretty good EVPs for our viewing pleasure coming up.
Oh, our last investigation we did together. Oh man, there were EVPs that were they weren't even like a whisper in the background. We're talking person standing next to you talking like I am right now, loudly, but wasn't there when we recorded.
Wow.
Full, like what just happened right now? What just happened? So, yeah, we've had a few. We actually have quite a few. But even the portal for me has been a key tool, and mainly because one of the things I started doing well before doing the cold case investigations and pairing them up with paranormal, my team that I used to have, we accepted a lot of difficult cases, a lot of dark entity cases that involve things that most people won't get involved in. And for me, I did it because one, I had the experience with it, because most people wouldn't help families. And I've had families that have been in bad situations. And, I was blessed enough to be able to have a very good contact at, the Vatican and the church and be able to, if I needed to reach out. But the major eye opener for me was when I was on a case with with demonic force. And I had John and I went to the church earlier in the day to get new holy water, get our metals re-blessed, kind of do like our normal ritual we do before we go into a dark case. When we got to the investigation that night, it was right off the rip. Things were happening like rapid fire, including scratches, bite marks. I mean, it was bad. I had my St. Michael medallion randomly just started burning my chest. I looked down and I moved the metal and it was just burned on my chest.
Wow.
But through the portal, about an hour or two into the portal session, I heard this dark voice say, this is for Jaclyn. Your bishop, the Holy Mary Bishop, can't help you. Your holy water won't help you here. for it to call me out by name, for it to say, I saw you at the church, your holy water can't help you. That the pit of my stomach, like clenched up. That was one of the hardest cases I had to go into, hearing this thing, because I won't even give it the pleasure of saying anything else. Thing, say my name like that, and say that they were there for me. That was like, holy,
Yeah.
What did we just step into? And it ended up being like a 4-generational attachment to the family.
Wow.
And it was dark and it was bad. And it took months of cleansings and investigations, and the church and the chancellor getting involved, and relentless hours of going back. And mind you, again, this was another case. It was like 2.5 hours away from where we lived. And every Friday we were driving down there, redoing it, re-cleansing the house, burying medallions around the property, doing every possible thing we could do to get rid of this thing. And it was wild. But to hear that portal say that, you cannot, I will never say that portal is nothing but 100% real, because that's exactly what that is.
Wow.
Well, we have another question from chat from a little while back. Michael Manis asked, do you have any plans to travel outside of the United States for maybe a special or overseas season?
Funny you say that. Who was it? Was it you, Irene, or was it John? I just said that we need to do a UK episode.
Well, our friend is from the UK. That's why I was asking.
Yeah. We did talk about doing that like in between the first and second season, doing a episode overseas. So,
and okay, there we go. Yeah, and he's brought up specifically, just to throw it out there. He said, "I was thinking somewhere like Chillingham Castle in Northumberland." Chillingham Castle in Northumberland. So, there's a name for you.
I've heard that before. Yeah, UK's got incredible stuff. Like, that is my bucket list times 10.
Yeah, absolutely. Apple Burrito wanted to know what kind of entities attach themselves to that family. It was definitely demonic.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it was. He was an incubus.
Yep, and the bishop actually believed that there were more than one entity that had, like, she called it a legion because it was more than one. But she said that you have, because of the different voices, it was speaking in different languages. It gave a few different names, but there were 2 specific entities. One that was more of a female entity, appeared as a female entity, and one as a male entity. But one wasn't an incubus, yeah.
Wow. I guess when it's been there for 4 generations, it had plenty of time to call in its buddies, right?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Oh, the imps, man. I love them so much, man. They cause a ruckus over the box, let me tell you. I have warfare stories with imps that I'm just sitting in front of that box just going at it with these imps, man. But that's a whole other. But yeah, you gotta love them when they just ramble on and they do these crazy train sound noise over the portal, or they'll do like really loud, like I don't even know how to explain it. Like, yeah, they'll do like a loud scream, like an agony scream, like as if it was like I don't know, I can't explain it. It's just really like an agony scream, and we witnessed one that probably went on for about 5 seconds straight, where it was just screaming. And mind you, we always keep our JBL on loud, so we're not anticipating this at all. And this thing just comes on and just makes like that loud scream, screech, or like a train sound. It just sounds.
Wow. Have you had any run-ins with any of those, Irene, that they've come across with any of these things?
Not me, because I'm newer, so I have not experienced what what they're describing. Okay. But I've had my own personal experience years ago, and so for me, I believe more in, there's a lot of negative energy and spirit that comes from just traumatic experiences and situations, and spirit that, like, fragments of souls that are left behind that are working through things, and that they can seem like they're demonic or scary. And then there's like demonic, and you until you've experienced both, you can't tell, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. You'd think that everything you're working with is demonic, but when you've experienced both of them, you know what is demonic and what isn't. And I've had a face-to-face encounter at a time when I wasn't even doing mediumship. I this was before I decided to go on my journey and my path, but it was at the cusp of getting closer to myself spiritually, and recognizing these things in myself. And so that's when the experience happened. And of course, it that can make or break somebody in taking steps forward to discover these other worlds, these paranormal experiences. And so, needless to say, it didn't stop me. I'm too stubborn. But it is, when, again, let me just go back. Once you've experienced it, the difference between something that is demonic. And so you'll see that you'll see that rarely, as opposed to everything being demonic. So yeah. And I 100%, I believe that these other things exist. Who am I to say? A teacher that our teacher we share, she says 10 years from now, come talk to me then, and I'll give you a different explanation to what I think happens on the other side, or in the spirit world around us. So we're always learning. And for me to deny that,
I saw a different approach. I saw a different approach from her, just from when we started taking classes with her, like 2 years ago, to when I took a class with her recently. Her things were already starting to change. Yeah.
Because like spirit comes to you with the journeys and the experiences that you are ready to take on at that particular stage in your life. And that's anybody, not just mediums. So if you're ready to take on that, and I believe they're ready to take on these experiences, they are experiencing it, and they also allow it, because they're trying to do work to help people. So that's why they're having these experiences. They're not doing it irresponsibly. They're investigating, trying to help someone, working with people that are knowledgeable about the situation, more knowledgeable than any of us. They've studied it, in their doctrines, in their studies to become priests or chancellors, or however you spiritually, whatever your spiritual path is. So they go to somebody who has that experience. They know the difference between being just going in there and thinking you can take on anything, and approaching it with humility, knowing you are not all powerful, that you do need guidance, that you're not all knowing, that you do need help. And they want to give that help to other people as well. And so it's about doing this responsibly too, because we don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now, and what we're going to see and what we're going to believe. So I'm not going to deny that this exists, that anything exists, until something is proven to me that it doesn't exist or does exist, and vice versa. If I want to prove that this exists to someone else, I need to provide them with the evidence that they can believe either way. Skeptics keep us honest. Deniers are something very different, but a skeptic keeps you honest.
Amen.
Did I go on a soapbox?
No, that's a good point, because I kind of brought that up earlier, and I'm glad you delineated between that thing too, between just a denier and a skeptic, because I would consider myself to be a skeptic, and I do all kinds of stuff in the spiritual world, but I think that's completely different than someone who's a denier, who's not willing to face any evidence that you're able to provide to the contrary. So I appreciate that delineation there. I have Attack of the Kitty here. Do you want to ask a question, Jenny?
I just wanted to say, before we get too far away from the subject, that it's like you were talking about, you had your own personal experience, like coming face to face with something really evil, probably. And Almost
Like
like
I'm talking like the teeth, like everything.
almost
the
like it
full-on
was
experience.
trying to scare you away from it. And
Yeah.
instead it like probably lit a fire under you. And I could just see it being like, well, damn, that backfired.
Yeah.
That's what you get for threatening a Greek woman. That's it.
Exactly. I loved it. Yeah, because that's the way I would feel too. I'm like, no, you try to scare the wrong person. Sorry, buddy.
Right.
Go pick on somebody else.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So what is coming? What are you guys getting ready to work on?
Oh, we have.
Wait, I don't know.
No, I'm
no, yeah.
Careful what you share.
Filtering it, yes.
I'm filtering. We have four pretty big cases coming up. We are doing our Lake Shawnee lockdown event on November 11th. So we're going to be going live from Lake Shawnee, Abandoned Amusement Park in West Virginia. So I'm very excited to do that as well.
Will that be on YouTube or
you're getting out towards our area.
Realm?
Yeah, so we're going to go live, I think, through initially, I believe, John, are we doing an Instagram one and YouTube? We do both?
Facebook and it'll be Facebook and YouTube.
Facebook and YouTube. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's my everything, guys. So. Are we going live on? Yeah, so we go live through there. We still have some spots open. If anybody'd like to join us, you can PM me and I'll give you the details on all the great stuff. But you check in at 1:45. You start a 1-hour tour from 2 to 3, and then at 3:30ish, the owner grabs his keys and says, "I will stay here after dark." And he leaves the property, and it's lights out until about 10 a.m. the following morning. You get the whole place to yourself, and that is one heck of an active location.
Well, we'll have to check our Google Maps and see how far of a ride that is.
Sounds fun.
And it's worth it. It's actually for what you pay. For what you pay to actually investigate most of these places like Penhurst and all that other shenanigans, Shawnee's worth it because Shawnee's overnight. Shawnee is, it's like 21 hours. In reality, it's probably about 20 hours that you get to investigate. In reality, you do an hour tour, you get some really good information from the guy, and then that's it. Like from 3 p.m. to 10 a.m. the next day, which is about 16 hours. You're investigating all day, and that's something you're like, I'm gonna be awake for. You can even take naps and rotations of 2 hours and still wake up, and people are investigating. So, paying. I think what is it to get in, Jackie? I mean, it's less than $100. What do you pay to get into Penhurst?
Fire, and it's not just the investigation. We'll do dinner. We'll do a bonfire. You can bring camping gear, s'mores. Like it's a whole experience. And then
you stay underneath this canvas or this atrium. What is it? Atrium, right? And it's huge, and that's where you throw the fire. But then you've got, when it turns night, the only lights is on the atrium. That's it. The whole park is pitch black, and that's it. You're going in there. There's a haunted house there that's kind of run down, and I went through there one time before it got dark. When we went there for the first time, I walked through there with the video camera. It's about a 10-minute walk through the whole thing. It was kind of trippy, and I mean the park is just amazing, man, and it's just really scary at night nonetheless. We had a great time at Shawnee when we went.
Incredible evidence. We got incredible evidence there. And mind you, the very first time we went, it was just John and I. There was nobody else.
Yeah.
In the park.
Yeah, it was just me, Jack. Yeah, that was it.
Ticket booth with a blue indigo light in the field, and it was pitch black.
Yep.
Coyotes off into the field howling, ghosts walking around. It was mayhem. It was wild.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a balloon literally move. There's these kids that are there. Literally, we had 2 balloons on these picnic tables. We're about 20 feet back by the fire pit, and we're talking to them on the portal. And all of a sudden, we're asking them if they can move the balloons. And we have a YouTube short of this, which is perfect too. And you just see the balloons and on Facebook. and you just see the balloons, a pink and a blue one, just poof right off the table at the same time simultaneously. Now it's not
Wow.
wind or nothing because this thing's been cameras were rolling for like 15 minutes at this point. Of course, I'm gonna chop it down, but see, that's why I love to feed skeptics because like when I make my videos and the edits, I'm always thinking about the skeptics because I am a skeptic too, just like Frost here is, and so I'm always thinking about you guys. Like I'm always thinking about, okay, what angle are you gonna say that this is BS? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how can I shut down your theory before you even start to think it? You know? So I'll let the video run for about 10 to 15 seconds prior to those balloons even popping off. So that way, when you're watching the video, you're literally just looking at the balloons, and then all of a sudden you're gonna see them poof in your face. Then that's when you're gonna be like, oh shit, like the balloons just move. You know, so in the video, the balloons just poof off the table, right, at the same time, and we believe there was a little boy and a little girl that did it, okay? The little boy took the blue balloon over to the left in this little hut thing, and he left it by the stairs, and the little girl was the one who rolled the balloon, her balloon, like, literally, like, hand rolled it. Like, you see it just moving, like somebody's rolling it physically to the fire pit where me and Jackie were standing. But before she got too close to the fire, you can hear me say, hey, don't get too close to the fire. You're going to pop the balloon. You see the balloon just stop. And it goes, stop, like, please stop. And then you'll see it go around towards my feet. Like, literally, like somebody's just there guiding it. You just, and in my mind, I'm like, holy shit, we got fantastic footage. Like you can't not believe this. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just completely mind blown, like, you know, by what we catch sometimes, and you know, so. But that's Lake Shawnee for you.
Sounds like an interesting place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever heard of that before. I just checked it out.
Yeah.
It's an old amusement park.
Yeah.
The history
this is insane.
Yeah, it looks like it's just south of Beckley, West Virginia. So.
That's not far from us.
Yeah, it's not. It's interesting.
Look at that.
Definitely come, man. You'll have a blast. I'm telling you. It's so big that you guys could we could separate because it's not just only an amusement park. It's, you know, the property is Indian grounds, you know. So like you've got one half that's the amusement park and the whole other half is just fields. But that's where the Indians used to reside over there, the native tribes and whatnot. So
there's 1,000 bodies on the property.
Yeah. Yep, there's still bodies buried there. So, and then there's an entity that roams there as well at night. If it doesn't want you there or feels like you're not there, you're not meant to be there, it'll get you out. The guy told us stories that there was a mother and daughter that they were driving, they were coming back somewhere, and then they were facing each other like this, right? So if you're looking at the side, their headlights are facing each other, and daughter brings up the mom like, hey mom, like, you know, everything okay? And the mom's like, yeah, why? And the daughter's like, well, because you got somebody leaning into the car, like literally like whispering something in your ear. And turns out it was what is it, the spirit element that roams there. It was, and they literally flipped out and they just left, and they left their stuff and whatnot too. Like the guy always tells them, man, these people will just leave and they leave their stuff.
Just leave their stuff.
Yeah, he's like, I'll be calling them like, hey, I'll link up with you guys to bring it back, you know, if you guys want it back. And they're like, no, we're good. We're already home. Like, you know.
So is this something that you guys are doing for the show specifically, or just as something different for the meetup that you're having there?
So John and I did it twice with our previously, and then this event specifically is to do like a promo for the show. So this is, you know, Forsaken Souls, Lake Shawnee Lockdown. But we have been there before the show.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
One hell of a place.
Yeah, we like to
Frosty
be in touch with the community.
Frosty and I were just saying that we usually take an anniversary weekend trip in October, but we can't do it this time. And we were like, well, we should go somewhere in November.
Nice meet and greet, right? I mean, you know, we like to get people involved, and we like to show people that what we put out is always legit and never fake. Like that's my biggest thing when I got into this, and I always spew this to Jackie, and Irene even knows it too. Like when I pull out the cameras, it's go time. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't want no nonsense. Yeah. This is how I have my angles. This is how I want everybody in the shot. Like I want this believable. Like, you know,
get out of my way.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but like, it just needs to be as authentic as it can be, and to just make sure people aren't like questioning it, even though they will, but
Well, I mean,
You know what?
that's the kind
Go
of the
ahead,
point of all.
Frosty.
I mean, that's the point of all this, though, really, right? Like, I mean, one of the reasons we did this podcast is this is what we like to talk to people about before we did the podcast. I mean, when I was hanging out with people and I met new people, and it was 11 o'clock, midnight, 1 in the morning, maybe 2 in the morning, I'd had a couple of different drinks of Jim Beam or whatever. This is what we talk. This is what I wanted to talk to you about. I'm not much for small talk. It's like, so you ever seen a UFO before? And I mean, those are the kinds of things that I like to talk about. And to me, it doesn't make any sense to do a show to try to push things forward if it's not exactly what you said, John, of like we don't have anything to hide. We're trying to push this thing forward. And to me, I would never intentionally put anything out there that I knew was faked or that was a blurry, crossing the line, because that's going against, I think, everything that most of us are trying to do. Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say the scariest part of that trip, though, for me would be trying to stay up all night, because I can fall asleep standing up.
Well, I nap like 4 p.m. to 11.
Okay, I have to take little cat naps.
John actually, when he talked about going to the haunted house that he went through, I was in the truck sleeping at 4 o'clock. It's from like 4 to 7. I took a nap, and he was wandering the fields by himself. I come back, he's like, I went to a haunted house and it was scary. And I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man.
We were not. The sun was going down, man. I was really sweating. I was really like scared because I gotta get out of here now before I get too dark. Like,
Panda on the run.
Right. So.
Wow. Well, the thing for me, I think I could go out there, and if I got too scared, I could shut it down. But for the mediums, I don't know. Like, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you got 8 hours left to go and you're done, could that present a problem for you, do you think? Or
yeah, what he did.
Yeah.
I guess that's what the cat nap is for, right?
That's
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's why you have people around you that you trust too, that when you're too tired to kind of make sure you're good, you have support to make sure that something's not happening to you that shouldn't happen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a long investigation. I haven't done probably nearly as much investigating as you guys have, but I have done a little bit of, and I don't know if we've investigated anywhere for more than 3 or 4 hours. So yeah, that's going to be a haul. So that sounds like a lot of fun, though.
I feel like that's what I feel like how long it takes to get a cadence is about 3 to 4 hours.
Right. Yeah.
Once you get a good groove, it's after you find yourself in like 5 hours in. Like, that's why I love Shawnee, because again, it's about 16 hours worth of investigating. It just sucks, like having to pack it up at 2 and veil hours at 3 a.m. Why would I want to leave at 2? Like, I feel like I'll get more activity if it comes 3 or so.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
he's relentless. He's up all night long. I'm napping.
Yeah, no, man, I can do this, man. Like, you see these bags under my eyes, man. This is up all the time. Like, I love that. I love it at night, man. But like, again, we do this during the day too. Like these guys don't rest. You know what I mean? There's no, 8 to 9 to 5 or none of that. These guys are 24/7. So whenever you punch in on the portal box, they're there waiting for you, ready to talk to you, ready to rock.
Yeah.
Yep. There's no time on the other side. They don't.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. Well, you almost got us a promo there, John. If you just would have said, if we made it to 3 a.m., the witching hour. I mean, I could have played that over some stuff there.
Listen, I'm so sorry. I call it the veil. I call it the veil because I don't know. I don't know about the witching, so I feel about witching, so I just call it veil. I'm sorry. I'm even trying to be PC. I apologize.
Veil stamp.
Right.
Yeah.
We did have a comment/question about the ghost children. Apple Burrito said, I wonder how many ghost children hang around after death versus adults. I can't imagine what it would be like to die young as a child, how lonely and scary that must be.
That's a great question.
There's 9 at Shawnee. There are 9 spirits that are there that we've been able to physically communicate with over the portal. But we get a lot of child spirits through our portal. And again, a couple of the cases we've got are children. Really difficult, sometimes to deal with that. But it was like when John mentioned the one child at our cemetery, Gage. Heartbreaking story on how he passed, but boy, he is so talkative in the afterlife. It's almost like he's just dying to let somebody talk to him, and when you hear that and you hear that kind of sweet voice, you feel bad at the same time. And some of the children's spirit are just so happy, and there's been times where I've had things pretend to be children too. So you got to really be careful.
I was wondering about that.
That's why I think that's a good question. I still don't know how I feel about children on the other side, because it seems like anytime I've had any experiences with that, it wasn't what it seemed like it was. So I was curious, like, so you think there have been children on the other side that are legitimate children, and then other cases where they weren't?
Yeah. And it's funny because our bishop that blesses our chains and stuff, the way she explained it, now this is, again, for those of you, I'm going to be very clear, this is the church's, like the Catholic Church's view on the afterlife. The belief is that they cross over. And this is not just for children, but any spirit that crosses over and goes to heaven, they are allowed to communicate with family or people that mean something to them in very specific times, whether it's to warn them of something very important or because they see that loved one is having such a difficult time that they need to give them closure. So it's almost like God gives them that opportunity to go cross over. And they almost like, the way she explained it to John and I was like, they're in heaven. They have this wonderful, beautiful place. They're happy, but God will let them come back over if they have a good enough reason for it. And then there are times where something so tragic happens with such quickness that they don't know they're dead. And so they're almost stuck. And so, we all know that the devil likes to play games and trick us. And I've come face to face with that so many times where you know that what you're dealing with is not, whether it's a really bad spirit that's enjoying toying with you or whether it is something much darker. But then I also have seen evidence of just pure souls that, either don't know they're passed on or come back over to let you know that they're okay. So I think it really just matters as it's as far as what happened to this soul, why.
Uh-oh.
Oh, your mic just cut out, Jackie.
Oh, sorry. And I was just saying, I think it's really just kind of a case by case situation, like what happened to this soul, and what's going on with you as an individual that they feel that they need to show themselves.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with most of that. Irene, how do you feel about with the Catholic Church's viewpoint of the being able to peek in, basically? Like, what's your thoughts about that?
Well, I grew up very religious. It was parallel to growing up Catholic in a lot of ways. So for me, I do believe a lot of that, a lot of what she's saying. I have, other thoughts on a couple things in terms of, I don't believe, I believe there are intelligent haunts and then there are residual haunts. So there could be a child that you see, but it could be a residual energy that's left behind from whatever experience or a lot of energy in a space. I'm coming around to this belief of the soul fragment theory, and I'm believing that a lot more. The more and more I do this, the more and more I believe that when they talk about how they can come into the other side, I believe parts of our spirit, of our soul, that still need healing can be left behind. And so, and that, because that somehow on some spiritual level needs to be worked through. Not that, so that we can go and heal on this side, energy gets stuck. That little piece gets stuck here that we're figuring out. And then they can come back and forth, I think, a little more than just on special occasions. I believe, just based on readings, unless they consider every reading a special occasion, then maybe that's the case. Maybe they know that their family is going, and then that is a special occasion. I don't know for sure, but I believe they come through back and forth a lot more than we truly know. I think they are allowed to come and provide us comfort and support, nudge us. I believe that angels, that some divine beings, things like that do exist to guide us and protect us as well. We call them angels. Other people call them spirit guides. Other people call them something else. It's just spiritual beings supporting us. And when they come as children, you have to be careful, and I think childhood death is more traumatic to the living than any other death. And so they do need to come back a little more to help with the family's healing. So I believe they can come back and they can show themselves. I don't know. I'm still struggling with any spirit being trapped. I have a hard time believing a spirit can be trapped. I believe a soul fragment can stay behind, and that is what you're working with. But being trapped in a space, because they're like, God is not going to leave them trapped. Like, in my mind, they're not going to be left behind like that. Everybody is cared for, whether you believe in God or the collective consciousness or whatever higher being you believe in. But there is something left behind that may seem trapped to us. That's what we think is trapped. And that's what we're trying to figure out. We're trying to understand that. And the great deceiver uses that because that's what's going to work on our emotions, right, the most. That's what's going to tug at our heartstrings and trick us into going in a direction that we may not normally go. And right, so, and lessen our defenses. So again, just like somebody who's experienced something more demonic than something that is just negative, really negative energy, it helps. Anybody can be fooled. I'm at the top of the list and being fooled about things. I don't know everything, but it helps you with that discernment. You get that intuition, you get that nudge, and everybody has that gut feeling that lets them know, right, something's not right here. I'm putting the pieces together. This may not be a kid, and that's where I stand. Sorry if that went. That's about where I am.
Right. No, I think all of that is great.
Yeah. So I just want to throw that out there real quick. We are starting to wind down. We do have a few minutes left. So if you have a question, make sure you throw it in chat so we can get that to our guests. And you can always highlight that message with channel points. That way we don't miss it. You can check them out at spiritrealm.net. And you can also go follow them on YouTube at Forsaken Souls. So make sure you go check that out.
And
there's
the
some stuff that go there. Yeah, and all those links will be found. They're in chat, pinned to the top, or you can find them. If you're listening to us by podcast, you can check the details below, and all that information and links will be there too. If you guys want to, send us a link for the event you're having out there in West Virginia, and we'll link that for people too, in case they want to. If there's someone listening who wants to go grab a ticket.
Absolutely. I'll get that over to you guys.
You mean like me?
Yes.
We'll strap you on a dolly and you can fall asleep whenever you want, and he'll just wheel you around.
Just have an intravenous coffee container.
There you go.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, plenty of energy.
Your little IVs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My grandpa used to call it his dancing partner. I need my dancing partner coffee.
Yeah. You can do, well, we had the sleeping prophet, right? So we'll just have the sleeping medium.
Okay. Yeah. I can probably do that. Channel my inner education.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So Apple Burrito got all of this afterlife, after death talk got them thinking about, what do you guys think about reincarnation?
Oh, I'll let you guys go with that.
Irene says I'm not touching this one.
I'm just gonna say a big I don't know for sure. I'm just gonna leave it at that. What are the different belief systems? You know, does it happen? Doesn't it happen? I don't know. I can't say for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I yeah.
Yeah. Apple Burrito, one thing I would say about that is you should come tomorrow night into Medium Jenny Lee's stream and ask. We can have a good conversation about it there, because we have lots of conversations on past life regressions and I've gotten past life regressions before, and I've been able to do them myself. So we definitely have some experiences on our side of it with that, but nothing with our guests this evening that they want to discuss anyway. So, which we understand.
There's a lot of evidence on one side and a lot of thought on the other side. So I'm not going to say either way.
Yeah.
I believe there is. I mean, I've seen some incredible things that you just sit back. And again, coming from a law enforcement background where I spent many years saying it's either black and white, you did it, you didn't, there's evidence, there's not. When you get to a point where you can't go either way and you're just stuck in that middle where you're like, I've got nothing, that's when you have to, turning off the logic and thinking outside that and be like, okay, what am I dealing with here? And there's a lot of cases where you have these children who are reliving things at the age of 2 and 3 that they can't possibly know.
Yeah.
Their parents are like hysterical. I would hope that maybe
there's something to the old soul, that the comments on that kid has an old soul. There's something to that.
I'm an old soul.
Yeah.
I personally tend to think there's something to it. Now I don't know if we've mentioned yet, but we are in Virginia. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but there is probably the only university in the country that actually has a department dedicated to the research of past lives.
Oh yeah,
is at the University of Virginia. So we actually were only about 45 minutes from there where we lived before we moved this summer. There's a lot of good research done out there by it was a PhD who studied for a long time, and now somebody else has taken that over, and they've got a lot of really good evidence is put up that way, and it's just like
going
everything
all the way
else.
Back to the 70s. It's been decades and decades now. Yeah.
And if you, it's just like everything else. It's not possible until you have your own personal experience, right? Like no one believes in UFOs until they see the UFO, and no one believes in the ghosts until they see the ghosts, and no one believes in a past life experience until past lives until they have that experience.
Nobody believes in the alien Amazon delivery guy until he shows up on the
until he shows up on your Ring camera. Yeah. We're going to have to go get one of those just in case,
The thing is,
let's not even get started on near-death experiences. We'll be here forever.
Yeah, don't get me, because I've got this is a whole nother podcast. It's a whole other podcast. But yeah, no, I'd like to believe that there. I feel like that's part of what deja vu is, right? It's almost like you're like, I've been here, I've done this. There's too much of that. Me personally, there's just too much of it. So,
or the person you meet and you feel like you've known each other for years. Like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, you just it's your soul tribe.
Yeah, that's one of those things I've experienced a couple of times when you meet a complete stranger and you feel like they're your best friend and you've only known them for like 2 minutes. And you're just like, we're going to hang out all the time. You're my new best friend. And they're like, yep. And you're like, they should be like running away and be like, hey, get this dude away from me or whatever. And instead it's like, oh, like, this is great.
It's probably
those things are always weird.
Best friends.
Johnny Two Birds meets Jackie, aka.
You had mentioned, the past life, the only way to know is if you experience it. But what's the difference between you seeing a ghost or an alien or UFO and experiencing the past life?
Well, I think that's a little trickier because you're not.
You can't report it to nobody. You can't tell nobody what the past life is because that's it. It's one and done.
Yeah.
That's like
you have children and see that experience. That I think that's one way. And then you can also do past. So I've done like past life regressions, and those become like it becomes one of those scenarios where you're like, I didn't make that up. Like this stuff, And then you have to kind of face it. Like, am I completely crazy, or am I? Does this seem real to me? And that's been my personal experience with it. But I think it's just for everybody else. It's just like near death. I haven't had a near death experience. So when I hear someone who has a near death experience, I'm not like against what they say. I don't like not believe them, but I do have a skeptical approach because I haven't experienced it. Like, I don't know if this is true or not.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I think one thing is once that door is cracked though, like once you're like, I investigate ghosts, or I'm a medium, or I do energy healing, or any of those doors get cracked, I feel like at that point you have to be at least receptive to some of the things other people believe in, right?
Totally.
You would think so.
Well,
although we have
not always.
Well, true. Yeah.
Right.
Believe me, the Irene of 10 years ago and the Irene now, very different way of thinking.
If you figure there's reincarnation, right? Or if you believe there's reincarnation in the afterlife. Now, what about, how does that explain the spirits that are the soul fragments that still linger around in a way? What about the spirits that actually answer you when you communicate with them, or on command prompts, such as lighting things up and whatnot?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So if these guys are in the afterlife, doing their thing, kind of just floating around and about, how does reincarnation come into play?
I don't think everybody.
I've asked Jay that question quite a few times.
Well, let me just break the internet and everybody's brains. There's a very serious theory, especially coming from people who have had near-death experiences, that all time is happening at the same time.
Yes,
so every single life that you've ever had is happening right now. There is no past, there is no future. There's only right now. So then you're, little Gage.
It's only a concept in our minds.
Yeah.
Maybe little Gage at the cemetery is also somebody else you've been talking to, somebody down the street, and who knows? I mean, it hurts my brain to think about. I don't know how the hell it works,
we can break it a little further, because the interesting thing about that is approaching it from a science point of view or a skeptic point of view. These are things that quantum, that physicists and stuff talk about, is that time isn't linear. Mm-hmm. And so we experience time in a way that time isn't. And so all time is happening at the same time. And that's science. That is science right now. For quantum mechanics.
Even that fold back, I can't even, my brain we
can't think of it. And so the interesting thing is when we talk about past life regressions, we've had situations where we've had to ponder future life regressions. Because you could have lived a life in the future. If time is not linear, then someone could experience a future life and then be in this life, because they could have experienced they've already experienced the future and the past.
I have a migraine.
It's crazy.
It hurts me.
Everybody's reincarnated. You're only special folk get reincarnated. Let's just go with that.
There we go. We'll keep it nice and tidy so that we can explain it to people.
We talk to the people in the waiting room.
Like, for real,
be reincarnated.
This is why I love animals, and I'm very nice to animals, because there was a time where I strongly believed in reincarnation, and I always have to use I used to have these wild dreams where I would come back as like a dog, or I was a dog, right? But but in the dream, I was a dog that would be abused, because there's a lot of animals out there that get abused and whatnot. Like I'm like a sweetheart when it comes to animals, so. That's why I treat, any dog I have, or the dogs, I currently own right now, I just treat them like kings and queens, because in the back of my mind, I just feel like if I do reincarnate, I'm as a dog. Yeah, like I'm coming back as a dog, like, you know what I mean? Like,
maybe you already were, and that's why you have such a passion.
Maybe.
I feel like he would be a Saint Bernard when I look at him. I feel like he would be a Saint Bernard.
I can see that. Big and cuddly and sweet.
Yeah. A little barrel of liquor around his neck.
Oh, that'd be cute.
Well, earlier Jaclyn said that could be a whole nother podcast when we were getting into those discussions, and it might have to be a whole nother podcast because we have reached our time limit. The clock is striking 10, and so it is time for us to disappear for the night.
Well, hold on one second. I wanted to just throw in one little thing because CMC Air Boss is mentioning it, and I was thinking about it too. So earlier you were talking about the soul fragments and do people get stuck or do they not get stuck? Is it just part of them and all that stuff? I think that I've experienced both of those things. I know for sure I've experienced soul fragments and helping them get to wherever they're supposed to be. But I think I've also experienced people who got stuck, but they did it to themselves. It wasn't that they that somebody left them there to suffer. It wasn't that nobody was looking out for them. It was that they were the deniers. Right. They couldn't see that there was
You're right. You're absolutely
else.
Right.
And then they're like, bloop, I'm not dead. I'm not going to hell. Maybe they think they're going to hell. I'm not going there. I'm going to stay right here because I'm scared of where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So I've experienced both of those things. And that, so CMC wanted me to mention that before we go.
Excellent.
Very good point.
So if you guys can stick around and we'll talk to you just for a moment after the show's over. Thank you guys for coming on the show tonight. It was so great having you on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And hopefully, after the shows have aired, you will come back to visit us so we can discuss what we've all watched in these episodes that we're ready for. We're going to have our popcorn ready. Me and Jenny love our spooky TV shows, so we will get the popcorn popped and the lights dimmed down, and we will definitely be checking out.
Especially when my friend's on it.
For sure. And we always have our own conversations about these shows after they're over. So it'll be absolutely wonderful to be able to have you all back on to be able to ask the questions that we have after the show.
Yeah. Everybody go check out the Johnny getting scared on my reels where he jumps 10 feet in the air because it's priceless.
Yeah, dude.
Excellent.
Good times.
All right. So thank you guys for joining us, and definitely go check out the links that we have listed below, and we will see you all next time.